Welcome to the Living Full Out Show. Get ready to listen to inspirational stories that show you how to overcome various challenges. Our host, Nancy Solari, is a motivational speaker and trustworthy life coach. Despite being legally blind, she maintains her vision for life and empowers our viewers to live full out. Our guests all have incredible stories to tell about the difficulties they've faced and how they survived. Join us now as our guests bravely open themselves up to teach us what they've learned throughout their struggles. And now, here's Nancy.
Welcome to the Living Full Out Show. My name is Nancy Solari. We have a very, very inspiring show today, and just stay tuned because the guests are out of sight and they're going to teach us so much about perseverance and how to really relish in a journey and loving the journey. And that will be more explained later on, so you're going to love it. But you know, when I think about my journey, and we all think about our own journeys, there are highs and lows, right? There are moments where we are challenged and moments where we want to give up. When I think about being legally blind, there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of moments where I've been scared of the future, wondering, what will come of my life? What will I be able to see? What will I no longer be able to see? One of the biggest examples of this was when I had to learn new technology. Being legally blind means that you can't just look at a TV screen. You have to use accessibility. All my computers talk, my cell phone talks, my calculator talks, and now my life is a lot more simpler because I embraced that technology. But it wasn't always that way. I was just not wanting to give up my flip phone. I was relying on feeling with my fingers the numbers rather than embracing accessibility. And the reason why I share that with you is because if we stay stuck in our ways, if we don't embrace what is new technologies, new relationships, new education, then we have the ability to stay stuck in life. We have the ability to limit our ability to know more, to do more, to be more. So as you go along in the hour today, I really want you to open your mind, open your hearts, and let that inspiration in. I'm hearing from our producers that we do have a caller on the line. We have Caroline from San Marcos, Texas. Caroline, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi, Nancy. How are you?
Hi, Caroline. I am wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Well, hey, I really give you a lot of courage for calling in today because obviously something is on your mind that you'd like to get some motivation around. Please do share. What's going on?
Yes. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background information so you can understand my situation and my friend's situation. So I have a friend. I've known her since high school. She's a really sweet girl. She always made straight A's, was involved in FFA, a figure skater, and has a really sweet family. And then she got a taste of freedom, as we all do once we move on to college, and she just kind of went downhill from there. She dropped out and moved to a different city and started surrounding herself with bad influences. She got involved with drugs, and it caused her to lose a lot of her childhood friends. And temporarily started working in places that I find inappropriate, like gentlemen's clubs. I mean, she's out of that now, but and she's been off the harder drugs for a while now, but she still drinks every day and parties all the time, and I'm just not seeing her focusing on her future, and I know that her potential is great, and I do care for her, and I love her, and I don't want to give up on her. But it's hard to get through. I have tried approaching her before, but she's really stubborn and doesn't think she's doing anything wrong. So how can I help her?
You know what? You are such a good friend. The fact that you're calling in today to help figure out how to give her further support is excellent. So don't change what you're doing. However, sometimes when people are in a state of freedom, where they're trying things, they don't want to be told what to do. However, what you can do is find ways to show them how they've changed, not for the better. And sometimes it might be taking just kind of a jaunt down memory lane. Show her pictures of when she was happy and where she may not be happy now. We don't want to make her feel bad, but we need her to see the negative changes that have occurred. And being a loving friend walking her through that change is really important. I know I've actually have friends in my life as well that have made some choices that were not supportive to their futures. And it's the friends that stay around them, the friends that stand by them, that are there to catch them when they're at their lowest moment. Unfortunately, anybody who's ever hit rock bottom, they have to hit that point before they can really come up. But when you come back up, you really love and appreciate all those friends that stood by you. So what I'm saying is, try to guide her and continue to help her to see that these choices she's making are not beneficial to her. But at the same time, she's going to have to find her place where she kind of hits that bottom so she can come up. Definitely watch out for signs of anything that could be destructive to her health, or if she's making choices that could injure somebody else, then you absolutely want to seek more professional help, or maybe even call a hotline. Just trust your instincts. They'll never fail you. What do you think about that?
I think it's really helpful. I do have a question. What do you think about me reaching out to her parents?
Do you know the parents well?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
If you feel as though, again, her actions are going to impact her life, perhaps either take her life or somebody else's, then absolutely, you might want to reach out to her parents. But know that when we take a risk in life, sometimes it can come with rewards, and sometimes a risk can mean that we lose something. So you have to be willing to put that on the line.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe as a last resort, we can do that.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to take risk. I think that it demonstrates and shows just how much you love her. But again, when we take big actions, big breakthroughs can happen, but also sometimes, negative things can happen. So you just have to be prepared either way.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Nancy.
Absolutely. And definitely, stay in touch with us. Call back into the show. We'd love to continue to support you.
Okay. I really appreciate it. It's very helpful.
You're very welcome. Have a good rest of your day.
Okay. You too.
Okay.
Bye, Nancy.
Bye-bye. That was such a great call. I'm so grateful that Caroline actually brought that up because, again, sometimes in life we're going to have those friends that are destroying themselves. They're doing actions that are not fruitful to their long-time evolvement. And the thing is we can't save people. If people don't have the right listening and they're not really ready to get the help, all you can do is be of that support. So I'm getting another word that we have another caller on the line. We have Phil from Chicago, Illinois. Phil, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, Phil. Thank you. So welcome to the show, and let us know what's going on today.
So I'm just kind of running into some issues lately, kind of with trusting a lot of sources and kind of trying to view the world through a really positive lens. And I find that I keep getting headed off by these negative ramifications of giving people the benefit of the doubt. And it kind of has come through. I recently trusted some sources on the internet that turns out were very untrustworthy. And it really ended up in a bad situation for me, kind of with my identity and kind of some things I have changed with that. So, I just, how do I continue to have a positive outlook on the world and try to give people the benefit of the doubt when it consistently is unresponsive for me?
Gotcha. You know what? I have a lot of friends who have actually been scammed as well. So don't feel alone. You're just one of thousands, sadly, who have been taken advantage of. Here's my two thoughts really on this is, if you are somebody that naturally trusts, I wouldn't change that quality of you for the world. So try not to let these experiences jade you or evolve you into being guarded, because only you can decide who you want to be in the world. And I'm guessing that you are choosing to be a positive person, a trusting person, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I want to be every day. It seems the right choice.
Well, I actually sense that you're not a want, you're a doer. So that's who you are. So don't let these experiences change who you naturally are, because those are great qualities. But second to that, what you have learned, again, this is where those big lessons in life, you now have learned that you might need to do more research. Okay, you might need to ask for more references or testimonials before you jump.
It's a good call. So just be positive, but be positive, and also research and learn.
Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. Let's say you're going to do an online purchase and you're not sure about the company. Do some research. Ask for references. Feel comfortable before you leap. It's the same thing if you're going into a relationship. You're going to get to know the person, right? You're not going to marry them on the first date, right?
This is true.
All right?
This is true, yeah.
Right? So it's the same.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's the same philosophy. So just slow the car down a little bit and feel comfortable before you move forward. What I love is that you're a doer. I think that it's great that you trust, and I don't want you to change that quality of you for the world. Okay?
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. And stay in touch with us. Let us know how it goes, okay?
Definitely. I'll call in again. Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely. Thank you, Phil.
Awesome. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
What a great call, and really so many wonderful points in there. Like we talked about with my own experience, I had to take risk. I had to step forward and embrace technology. So Phil has to embrace doing more research, checking resources. Caroline, she's even got her own journey with helping her friend. What I love about this show, and that everybody is calling in courageously, is we're seeking these resources and getting help together. Now stay tuned, because we have a very powerful guest coming up, and he's going to tell us about his time as a prisoner of war. Stay tuned.
Imagine relaxing with a cup of the finest tea in existence. Complex, perfectly balanced, fragrant teas that were once only reserved for emperors and royalty are now yours to enjoy with Waterfall Teas. With a range of fragrances, flavors, and pleasures selected from the most elite tea regions in the world, the nectar of the tea leaves of our exquisite teas spreads goodness from the mouth to the whole body, making every essence of your being rejoice. Go to waterfallteas.com and let Waterfall Tea Company be your personal tea sommelier. waterfallteas.com.
Welcome back to the Living Full Out Show. My name is Nancy Solari, and just as I promised, we have a very inspiring guest coming up now. Imagine being in prison for 2,103 days. I can't even imagine what that would be like. What would you think about for that many days in a row? The torment that this gentleman went through, the shame. There's so many wonderful lessons in his story. I want everyone to listen really closely. Welcome, Charlie Plumb. Captain Charlie Plumb, so happy to have you.
Thank you, Nancy. Nice to be with you.
Yeah, so, wow, there is so much to your story, so much. Let's start with the day that you had got shot down.
19th of May, I was at the top of my game. It was 1967. I'd been a graduate of the Naval Academy, flying the hottest airplane in the world at the time. A proud Navy fighter pilot with 74 combat missions under my belt, and only 5 days until the end of my tour, my return to my wife and a little R&R. I was shot down over North Vietnam, hit by a surface-to-air missile. It exploded some 12,000 pounds of jet fuel we had and sent my co-pilot and me tumbling towards a rice paddy. We both ejected, came floating down in our parachutes. The enemy continued to shoot at us even as we were in our parachutes. I thought that was unnecessary.
Well, like it isn't hard enough that you're going to land in enemy territory.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when you do finally land, what is that moment like? What were you thinking?
Well, I was in shock.
Yeah.
I felt bulletproof. I didn't think that the enemy had a gun big enough to shoot down Charlie Plumb. And so I was pretty much beside myself. Now, I had been trained, and of course, as a fighter pilot, I had pretty good emotional response, and so I tried to maintain a certain amount of reality of it all. And so I started looking for ways to escape. It was in a very crowded area just south of Hanoi. And so there wasn't much way I could escape, but I looked for options. I hit the rice paddy, sunk about waist deep, surrounded immediately by 25 or 30 of the enemy, and they stripped me of everything I had. They took my flight gear, my clothing, my personal possessions.
Wow.
They even eventually took my name and gave me a name from their language just to humiliate me for the next nearly 6 years.
Wow. That to me is just a moment of shock, a moment of where is this going to go? How bad is it going to get? Right? I mean, it's a definite moment.
In a lifetime, you try to plan for the next 5 years, 10 years. Yeah. I'm thinking what's going to happen in the next 5 seconds.
Exactly. Now, you did go through a lot of torture while you were in this prison. Can you share with us some of the things that they did?
Sure. The main torture we call the rope trick, and it was a series of shackles and manacles and ropes to bend up our body in contortions that you can't even believe. Our shoulders totally out of a joint, our arms behind our back, and we're in a lot of pain for that.
Yeah, I bet. And the thing is they did that to try to break you.
They did, as a matter of fact.
And try to make you feel just like you were all alone, and the thing that stood out to me, and we've talked several times, is they did break you. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that.
Well, they broke us in several ways, but mostly in limited psychological ways. We kept our base unity, and that was really important in what we did. We kept our faith. They never broke our faith, and so. While they got some information from us, most of it was bogus, and we lied a lot. We, as military men, we were supposed to give only name, rank, serial number, date of birth. That's the code of conduct in the military. And unfortunately, we went far, far away from that, but we never gave them any top secret information that they could use. But we felt terrible about going past the code.
Now, you keep saying we, but in that moment, you didn't know.
Oh, I didn't know it at the time.
You thought you were the only one that gave this false information.
I did.
And taking us back to that moment, how did that make you feel?
I felt very guilty, I felt miserable that I had given in. I flew the skies, as the Top Gun fighter pilot, I flew the skies over North Vietnam thinking that if I ever were shot down, surely I was strong enough to give only name, rank, serial number, date of birth, the code of conduct. And I found when I got there that I couldn't. And I felt that everybody else could, and that I was going to have to go home someday and face my squadron mates, the other pilots who were stronger, smarter, more mature, older, who hadn't given in. And so, and incidentally, I found out later that everybody felt that way.
Wow.
Some of the guys even considered suicide rather than expose the fact that they had given in. They felt so guilty about all this.
Well, it's really amazing the amount of honor that everybody had for their country, for the position they had, and that's great. And, I got really chills when you and I talked the first time, because I could really feel that shame that you were feeling, that isolation that you were feeling in your cell. And I remember there was a night that a gentleman and cellmate next to you tried to connect with you. Tell us about that.
Indeed. A fellow passed a wire across a storeroom between our two prison cells and into a little rat hole. He'd been there for 2 years when I got there. Bob Shoemaker pieced together little bits of wire he found around the camp, and he shoved that wire into my cell with a note wrapped around the end of it and a code on the note so that we could communicate with tugs of numbers of tugs indicating various letters of the alphabet. And so I didn't even want to communicate with the guy first. When I saw the wire, I knew, I was pretty sure that it wasn't the enemy. They weren't sophisticated enough to trick me. And so it had to be an American. If it was an American, it was a fighter pilot, because that's who was in the prison camps. And I felt like I really didn't want to talk to a fighter pilot.
You were ashamed.
I was ashamed. I didn't want to, I didn't want to open up to anybody who I assumed had been stronger than I.
It's interesting. At Living Full Out, whole premise of the show, we talk a lot about opening up, being vulnerable, asking for help. And here you were isolated, alone. Who knows? Your best friend could have been next to you, but you were so ashamed and worried about what he would think. I thought it was so interesting that you had to swallow that piece of paper so the enemies wouldn't find it, so they wouldn't further punish you. But one day you did decide to finally engage.
Oh yes.
And boy, did you find out about a huge community of leadership that was there that you didn't know was there. Tell us about that.
It was absolutely the secret to our success, and that we not only survived that experience, but even thrived through it, because we've done great things since we've come home, all of us.
Yeah.
And the key was the communication, and then the organization and the leadership in that camp.
Now there was a code.
A code.
Amongst this secret organization, the secret leadership, there was a code of honor. Tell us about that.
That was probably the defining moment when they said, here's the difference. We're going to redefine this code of conduct, this name, rank, serial number, date of birth, and the way that we're supposed to react. We have found that that's not working. So here's what we're going to do. And the leadership set certain principles, certain plateaus of resistance. And it really made a lot of sense. And the overall guiding principle was 3 simple words: return with honor. And every decision we made was to make that happen, that we were going to return to our country being honorable men. And it worked. First of all, it coalesced this whole organization. These 591 fighter pilots that would communicate with each other and validate each other and support each other. It changed the whole tenor, the whole mood of the camp.
Yeah, I mean, what I thought was so interesting is this community was built, and you were saying to me that even the guys that were there the longest had the most mental stability, where the guys who came later felt more alone.
The guys who were shot down near the end of the war, were only in prison camps for a few weeks or a month or two, I feel like didn't have the time that it takes to process the value of forgiveness to begin with, and for the value in a negative experience.
Right.
I am convinced that adversity is a horrible thing to waste, that within every challenge we face, there's an opportunity. And it's easy to blame somebody else for the problem and feel sorry for ourselves and feel like we have no control of our destiny. And that's just giving away control of our lives.
Well, and I love that. I love that. And there's so many parallels to what you encountered at the prisons, to natural life, to what we do every day.
Certainly.
And I just want all the viewers to really take this in. This communication, this community that you learned about was taught to you, was delivered to you by scratches on the walls and tugs, and you learned about all of this through that communication. That's amazing.
It was a very slow, very slow,
tedious,
tedious process. And when you think, as a friend, as a leader, that you have a mission to accomplish with a group of people, but oh, by the way, you can't see them, you can't fire them, you can't hire them, you can't motivate them other than just tapping on a wall or tugging on a wire.
That, to me, that is the most amazing thing, because in normal communication, sometimes we'll say words and we misfire, let alone a tug and a scratch and what that means. You know, building, drawing the connection between what you learned in the camps to everyday life. I mean, that's what you've really dedicated your life to.
Absolutely.
Tell us more about that.
Well, I believe in every situation you have a choice, and I think that I am living proof of that. We came home, and of 591 men, we have produced 16 generals, 6 admirals. Most of us retired as senior grade military officers. We went back to flying airplanes and commanding squadrons and ships, and we have 2 United States senators, a vice presidential candidate, a presidential candidate, and we've done amazing things because we decided to take that adversity, and rather than be bound by it, we were actually inspired by it. It gave us a confidence, I think, that we couldn't possibly have had.
Well, and you give me confidence because you have so much energy, so much inspiration. No one would ever know that you were in a prison for 2,103 days. Like, I have to keep saying it because it blows me away, and you're so humble and loving.
Well, thank you.
you know, when you came back, things had changed. They weren't the same.
No, they weren't.
Yeah.
I had married my high school sweetheart the day after I graduated from the Naval Academy, under the arch of swords that my buddies were holding up outside the chapel.
Lovely.
It was, and she is a lovely lady, and she hung on as best she could for 5 years and then filed for divorce just 3 months before I came home.
Wow.
Complete shock to me, and again, one more choice. And I said to myself when I found that out, all right, you didn't learn much in that prison camp, that little cell of education, but you did learn this, is that if you can survive something like that, you can survive a challenge like this. And so let's look for the good part of it. To begin with, she had it tougher than I did, I feel. She was 24, as I was when I was shot down, 30 when I came home. She spent 6 years of her life trying to be faithful to a guy she couldn't see, she couldn't talk to, she didn't know if I was alive or dead, and if I ever came home, would I be a burden to her the rest of her life?
Which for some people, that was the case.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
That's
Although
true.
you are worth waiting for, Mr. Charlie Plumb. You know, it's to me, kind of wrapping up today, and I could talk to you for hours, but you know, one of the things that stood out to me is that you were so grateful for so many simple things, but especially a door handle on the inside of a door, right? You know, the ability to walk out when you want to. Simple pleasures.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's very true. I am very grateful for simple pleasures of life.
Yeah. Well, we are grateful for you, and you know, keep going and sharing your message, because you know, I do believe that sometimes in life we're all in a prison. You were in a literal prison, and for all those, you know, our audience here who may feel as though they're in their own emotional prison or physical prison, like Charlie Plumb, you can get out of it. Inspiration, motivation, if you grab hold of it, embrace it, and live with it in your heart and soul, you can be just like Charlie.
Okay, well,
All
thank
right?
you for that.
Absolutely. You're a friend of mine, my
Thank
dear.
you. Thank
and
you.
Thank you again. So we'll be right back. We have another great interview coming up, and so inspiring. Imagine giving birth to a son that is blind and autistic. The challenges that could come with that. Stay tuned. Back to the Living Full Out Show. My name is Nancy Solari, and as promised, I am here with a very special guest, Paul Avila. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Paul, I just want to jump right into it because your son was born blind.
Yes.
And I am actually legally blind. And
Yes.
so to me, I can't imagine what that would be like for you as a parent giving birth to a son who's blind.
Yes.
Can you share with me a little bit about that day?
Sure, sure. Actually, I remember at 3 months, we went to the pediatrician, and they did some testing on Pauly, and I remember they did like a light exam test on him. And I remember looking at the doctor, and he was kind of white as a ghost, and I said, "What's wrong, doc?" And he said, "Something's wrong with Pauly. You know, you guys got to go to a pediatrician right now. To the children's hospital right now." So I said, okay. So we took him down there, and they did some testing on Pauly, and we found out he was completely blind. So I remember it was like somebody just hitting me in the stomach, and it was very tough to deal with.
And that's completely blind, and he's 3 months old.
Yes.
Weren't you angry or frustrated that they didn't catch it sooner, that you didn't know?
Yes. No, I was.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, looking back, I said, is there any signs or something we could have found out earlier? But everything was normal, healthy, everything was smooth. And, you know, like I said, it was about 3 months that we had found out.
Wow. I mean, hard enough to be a parent,
Yes.
just with a child that's healthy and happy, let alone
Exactly.
this challenge. Now, you were kind of an active youngster growing up, rebellious in your own right.
Yes.
So when you found out this news, you know, you acted out a bit.
I did.
And you know, you really loved your son, but you had you call it an epic night,
Yes,
where
yes.
you kind of lost your mind a little bit.
I did.
Tell
yeah.
us about that.
Sure. Well, I'm dealing with the whole thing with Pauly, you know, at a very young age. I was 20 years old, and, you know, unfortunately started drinking and doing some wild stuff. And this one night in particular, I remembered obviously drinking a little too much, had a run-in with the law, and unfortunately got in an argument with my son's mother, which resulted to the neighbor coming over. And we got in an argument, and you know, I got very upset, and obviously not being in the right state of mind, I actually had pulled out a gun. Not thinking I was going to use it. Who does that?
Yeah.
But more of a scare tactic, and wasn't the wisest decision. So obviously cops are called. I was very upset. I got in my car, which obviously is the worst thing to do.
Because you've been drinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I just said, taken off, and went for a joyride, and cops were behind me, and ended up being like a version of Cops, you know, ended up on a wild, you know, high-speed pursuit. And
I think I remember seeing you in Cops.
yeah, that was me. Yeah, exactly. The helicopters.
That's right.
So yeah, just long story short, ended up going into the canyons, rolled my truck, and it was literally like a movie. I mean, my truck was kind of teetering off on the edge, and luckily, I think it was about 3 or 4 feet away. And I always call that the epic night, because I think it literally changed my life.
So that night, acting out, getting all that aggression out, almost losing your own life.
Yes.
What was the big revelation?
Well, I think, you know, as I look back at it now, you know, just I remember that night just thinking of Pauly all night in the back of my mind of what could have been. You know, God forbid, you know, I would have died or something like that. And, you know, Pauly's like, I always say, he's my guardian angel. But yeah, it was definitely a wake-up call, and I'll never forget that night. But it was definitely an eye-opener.
Well, and you shared with me in confidence that, you know, you were wrestling with just having a kid at 20 anyway,
Yes.
whether or not you should or shouldn't, correct?
Yes. I think just dealing with, you know, there's a lot of emotions that go with it, maybe fear, shame, embarrassment, you know, having to reveal to the family both sides. And yeah, we went through the unfortunate decision of thinking, should we even go through with this?
You
know, which was
almost had
difficult.
an abortion?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you know, and it's something that, you know, God just kind of knocked me over the head and said, what are you doing? You know, you kind of make rash decisions, and obviously you look back at it now that, God, Pauly is just this angel. I couldn't imagine my life without him, but yes, we did go through that thought.
And to me, that's so amazing, because there's a lot of parents who might be even older, let alone younger, who also hit that same crossroad. Do we keep this baby? Do we not? And then to find out that it's that your Pauly was blind.
Yes,
you know, I can see how you'd be really tormented by, did you make the right decision or not? But
Exactly.
your angel, you
Yes.
obviously did.
Yes.
Now, fast forward to age 4. Now you find out he's autistic.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Well, it basically happened that everything we were relating that he wasn't doing was due to the blindness. So, you know, I always think of Stevie Wonder. I'm like, okay, Pauly's blind, but he should still be functioning, talking, walking, doing all these other things. So again, we took him to the doctors, and right away they said, no, you should go to the neurologist at Children's Hospital, which was like, oh, every time we go back to this place, it's never good news. So we took him there, they did some testing, and they told us he was autistic. So it's very difficult because, you know, obviously autistic kids totally rely on their vision, and kids who are blind can at least talk and function. So when you have both against you, we knew it was going to be a difficult, you know, uphill battle.
Well, thankfully you didn't have Epic Night Part 2.
Yes. Yes.
So you had grown, and
Exactly.
you chose to love your son as
Yes.
much as you could in the
Exactly.
biggest way that you could. And I have a nephew who's autistic as well, so I understand, you know, the depths of the repetitive nature
Yes.
and how much is required. But do share with us, share with our viewers, just how much you have to help your son in the ways that you help him.
Yeah. Well, now Pauly's close to, well, yeah, he's 18 years old. He just hit 18. But yeah, I want to say it's maybe watching like a 3 or 4 year old. You know, I got to change his diapers, I got to feed him and bathe him. It's definitely full-time care. You know, the hardest part is that Pauly's not verbal, you know. So we've been dealing with him. You know, frustrated lately as he's getting older. You know, now he's becoming a man, you know, so he's been a little more aggressive, which we're not used to that. He's normally, more mellow mannered. So that's been a new challenge. But yeah, it's daily, just watching him and having our family around us, which definitely makes it easier on him.
It's a huge difference.
Yes.
We actually promote community here at Living Full Out a lot.
Okay.
It's a big deal.
Yes.
And you've built your community for Pauly, his
Yes.
mom's family, your family. One of the things that always stuck with me over the conversations that we've had is the day that you started Pauly's project and why you started it.
Yes.
Can you share with us why you started it and what
Sure.
Pauly's project is?
Yes. Well, basically, Pauly's project started about 2 years ago. Music's our lifesaver with Pauly. Pauly loves music. He hears it day in and day out. But I remember one day in particular, I do a lot of volunteer work out in Skid Row, and I remember coming out after serving breakfast to the homeless, and I saw this one random guy, and he had headphones on, and he was dancing, and he kind of had that glow, that smile that Pauly has. So it was like God had kind of stopped me in my tracks, and I just like, wow, music's so powerful. From your homeless man to kids with special needs, everybody, people love music. So I remember going home that night and kind of pondering, like, God, what do you want me to do with this? It's like I saw this vision of music today, and how can I give that back to others? So yeah, just slowly I started getting donations to family and friends. And we started purchasing these AM/FM headphone sets, and me and Pauly started to deliver them to the homeless.
Wow, I mean, that's so touching because you're really building Pauly's legacy. Like
Yes.
you realize that he's not going to have the same moments as
Yes.
other kids, and
Exactly.
you're building his moments. What has it been like for Pauly to be part of these events, these giveaways?
Yeah, well, Pauly's kind of like a hero down there. I think a lot of the homeless look at him and they don't really know he's blind, so. He'll give them the free headphones, and they say, why isn't he looking? I said, well, Pauly cannot see. And why isn't he talking? Well, Pauly's autistic. And, they leave with a totally different perspective. They're like, wow, like, who am I to be complaining? This poor, child is challenged. And yes, I'm homeless, but I can do something with my life. So I think Pauly gets it, the whole reason behind Pauly's project.
Right.
And it's very inspiring, and he touches, thousands of people.
Absolutely, and all of our viewers, honestly, I just want everybody to support your cause because I think it's so important, and music does touch people in a big way. Does Pauly have any favorite songs?
You know what? He listens. That's the first question people ask.
Yep.
He loves all genres of music. I always say anything with a good rhythm or beat. But yeah, he has his iPod and thousands of different songs on it, different types.
That's great.
Yeah, he loves everything. Yeah.
Now, how has this journey changed you as a man, changed you as a father? Because again, you've had quite a festive past.
Yeah, it's been a rough road. Yeah.
So how have you evolved?
I think personally, just the growth and wisdom and experience, and I always look at maybe a successful or passionate man, and you look back at his history, and he went through something in his life, and that's what I feel like. Maybe I had, my midlife crisis early before others. I grew up real fast, as being a young man, and dealt with these, challenges of Pauly. But yeah, it's totally changed me in the person who I am today. Just wanting to give back to others, and just appreciating life.
That's great. And does Pauly, being blind and autistic, do you ever reach out to those organizations in those two spectrums? We encourage people here a lot of times to reach out to local organizations that can give support. Do you guys tap into those resources?
Yeah, definitely. I think with our story we touch a lot, obviously the homeless who we're giving back to, but yeah, definitely the autism. Autism Speaks, we do a lot. Junior Blind of America, we do with them. So yes, we're opening to connect and work with them as well, and get more awareness for all those causes.
See, I love that, and really the work that you do. Everybody, I just have to say, Paul is not only just such a loving father, but he is so committed to this. You think about this all the time, like 24 hours a day.
Yes.
And it's not about making money, it's all about bringing joy to your son, bringing joy to the homeless.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's fantastic. And I'm even going to go buy my nephew an iPod or something because I think he would just love that.
Yeah, no, that definitely seems to soothe and calm people. Music just touches people in so many ways.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for,
you.
for coming here today and sharing your story and learning about Pauly's project, such a
Yes.
great organization, and we're here to support you as well. So thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
everybody, get involved in organizations in your local area, whether it be Pauly's project or other organizations, because we're all in this together. I feel connected to Paul because I'm legally blind. I have a nephew with autism, but we all have something. It may be diabetes, it may be being hearing impaired, it may be lupus, who knows? The fact that we can all bound together, educate each other, support each other, donate, do a walk, do a run, take action. That's what Living Full Out's about. We'll be right back after this commercial with Nancy's Vision. Today's show has been so motivational to me. It's really touched me personally. Captain Charlie Plumb, wow, what a story. We're all imprisoned sometimes in our life. Sometimes it's that emotional feeling trapped, feeling like there's no way out. Sometimes it's physically. But to know that there is hope. And Charlie Plumb, he gave us that hope today. And I'm going to treasure that all day long, thinking about how grateful I am that he was able to get released and go on to do great things. I'm also very touched and inspired by Pauly's project. Again, being legally blind myself, I love knowing that organizations are out there making this world a better place, raising money to soothe the tension, the pain, the loneliness that can sometimes come with having a disability. I want everybody who's watching today to know that you are not alone. You are not in a prison. You have the ability to leap into any journey you'd like. This adventure of life is yours. It's time for you to step out there and live your life full out.